Oh, friend, you are in luck because in front of you is a fantastic conversation. And Dana is one of those gifted communicators that there's just sticky phrases over and over again. Be willing to be inconvenient. I mean, that resonated deeply with both Aaron and I in the conversation. We don't bring value. We are value. Man, some of these elements that we explore as she shares about her coaching business and the journey to starting Dana Byers Coaching, I know are going to resonate with you. And so I'm very excited for you to listen to this episode. Thanks for listening today. Welcome back to the Restoration Group podcast, where we are sometimes silly, but we are always serious about investing in Oklahoma City leaders who desire to integrate their work into their Christian faith. I'm your host, Clay Steves, and today I am joined by my co-hosts, Aaron Scott and our friend, Dana Byers. Dana is passionate about helping Type A Christian career women experience success in all facets of life. That is why Dana became a certified Christian life coach, specializing in energy management and transformation. Dana works with her clients to help set boundaries, nurture healthy relationships, and achieve professionally without hustle. Welcome, Dana, to the conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. Well, thank you for being with us today. So let's go back. Take us back. I love Genesis. We just read in Exodus and we were just talking about beginnings and stories. So let's go back to the Genesis story. What were the signs, experiences, promptings going on in your life, maybe the circumstances that led to you starting Dana Byers Coaching?
So I am a serial burnouter. Is that a thing? Ooh. A serial burnouter?
Serial burnouter.
I have some unfortunate, consistent behavior of burning myself out. And when I hit the third burnout, that was just, I can barely get myself out of bed, crying when my phone rings, all the things. I went, okay, I need help. And the crazy thing was, I knew I needed help, and I had sought help every time I had experienced burnout. I had counseling, I had mentors, I have great leaders all around me in all facets of life. My husband is an amazing leader, loads of support in my life, but something was missing. And I hit burnout when our family hit a point of crisis. Someone really close to us was in the mental health battle of their lives. I was the executive pastor of a church. Our pastor was on sabbatical, so I was running the church. We were launching new services, doing a massive capital campaign, you name it. And I could just feel myself literally draining. There's hardly any energy left, and whatever's left is going to go away really fast. You just feel like you're hitting this emergency point. And I was doing all the things. I was in counseling. I was in prayer every day. I am not unfamiliar with God's word. I could certainly know it more, but it wasn't like I was not seeking God. And I decided kind of on a whim to do something that seemed completely silly to me. And that was to hire a coach. Coaching to me had always seemed like I couldn't determine what the difference was between coaching or counseling or a mentor. And I just thought, I don't know. First and foremost, I sure as heck don't have time for this. I really don't think I have money for this. Yeah. Really, I was just thinking all these things. This would be the last thing to do. And in a last-ditch effort, I hired someone I knew from years before. And she happens to be certified by the same organization I'm certified. And she just walked me through a process of gaining the kind of deep awareness that is it's like a 1-2 punch. Ouch, that hurts. And thank you, Jesus, for that awareness, because this is what I needed. Yeah. And she didn't do that to me. She just led me down the path of, oh my gosh, this is what I've been missing. And so what I was doing was I was experiencing a lot of what we call there's catabolic energy and anabolic energy.
Come on now.
So if it's,
technical, this is what I'm talking about.
If it's anabolic.
Yeah, I'll write it down. Yeah. I got you.
So if it's anabolic, it's something that adds energy to your life, Clay. It's like something you're like, when I do this, when I watch a Harry Potter movie, I'm energized, right? This makes me feel better. I'm going to make up something that may or may not be catabolic for you, Erin. And that would be like, you know, a child you love screaming and throwing a tantrum on the floor, right? It's like, okay, I don't need this right now. My energy just drained out of me.
Who doesn't love that?
Right? Yeah. So that's draining. Like you can just feel it. So we all have catabolic and anabolic things happening all day, every day in our lives, at work, at home, even in my relationship with God, just him and me talking. Some things I'm like, God, I do not like this. And some things I'm like, man, Jesus, I love this about you. And I'm just back and forth all the time. It's not because there's anything wrong with me. It's not because I'm overly emotional. It's because I'm human. Yeah. And we're human. So gaining the awareness of the fact that I was personally allowing many catabolic things to take over my life and not bringing in the anabolic, helpful things that oxygenate my life. Sounds simple, but to put that into practice, I just saw it everywhere. I literally went back to my desk after that first session and someone comes in and is asking me about a budget thing and I'm like, ooh, ouch, no, that feels bad. Now, I didn't stop doing my job and I didn't stop doing the hard things, but I really just took note of it. And I'm a list maker, so I'm just like taking note of it, like gaining evidence for these are the things I'm facing all the time. How do I step back and either get help with them? How do I step back and maybe just look at these things once or twice a week instead of every day, letting them bowl over, you know, my office door, literally? And how do I organize these things in a way that honors the place I was working, honors God, but also honors me? And that was a hard thing to do because I don't want to make it gender specific, but I know for me as a woman and a lot of my girlfriends, we struggle to honor ourselves. And we think honoring ourselves is lifting everyone else up and then taking care of ourselves. For me, that's not the right definition. And so I really worked over time to shift. And I did not immediately come out of that burnout experience, but since that time, it was 2017, I have faced continued, ongoing, even a little bit more significant, I would say, stressful scenarios in my life and have been able to experience the stress but not burn out. Like I'm not crispy. I'm like fresh. I'm able to show up and do the things that God's put in front of me. And so that's why I want to be available to people who could use the hope of the tools and things that I work through, and to also be able to say, hey, there's nothing wrong if you're burned out, by the way. We don't cast judgment for being burned out. We offer a hand and share a story and encouragement.
It's really good.
How long, like going back to that season in 2017, how long did it take you to recover from burnout to where you felt like yourself again, or you felt thriving in life again? And then how did you begin to implement the learnings that you were taking as, you know, life maybe brought you, as you said, even maybe harder challenges, larger things? How did you avoid the spiraling back to, and spiraling is a harsh word, but maybe going back to those spots?
Perfect word.
You know what I mean? How were you able to kind of catch it? You know, and I know there's the specifics of the boundaries of pieces, but maybe talk about that experience, like specifically the mental experience of being concerned that you would go back to the spiraling to the burnout spot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say broadly it was probably a year, Clay, to recover.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say I didn't feel some immediate relief, but there was two things at play, right? There was my own personal growth. There were also the circumstances in my life. That person close to me who was struggling with some mental health issues, we started seeing some improvement in their life. Yeah. And so that was like a boost or a supplement to my experience. My lead pastor had been on sabbatical for a few months. He came back. That helped, you know? And I was able to make some shifts in my job, some shifts in my schedule, even some boundaries about what I was volunteering in and my sleep. And so those things I saw an pretty immediate boost, but I would say to prove to myself that I would have my own back to maintain that lifestyle. Yeah. It took a solid year. And then once I started experiencing other things and new and different things in life, I was like, wait a second, I choose to stick with this new identity. I'm a person who doesn't have to burn out. Yeah. I always thought, oh man, this job or this relationship or this volunteer role, this is going to be so fun until I burn myself to a crisp. Like I would almost think I'm just headed there. And now I'm like, wow.
It was an inevitable outcome.
It was almost inevitable because I just love what I do so much, whatever I've done. Like I've had so many seasons of my journey that I've been really passionate about and so thankful for because of the learning opportunities and the relationships built. Like those are the paycheck for me. What did I learn? Who did I meet? What did I gain from them and those relationships? So figuring out that I have a tendency to go 0 to 60 really quickly and then stay at 60, but I can't sustain 60. Yeah. It's like, okay, how do I create a life that's sustainable? Yeah. And that feels really rewarding to me because, and you asked me, Clay, about kind of the mindset shift. Yeah. The lie I had to change was that if I'm not going full speed, I'm not adding value. That was like, once I got to like bare bones of peel back all the layers of the onion. And I remember talking with my coach about, the idea of just showing up and sitting at the table. We bring value that I don't even have to open my mouth. And I don't say that from a point of pride. It's just that we each have this bank of experience. We have gifts that God has given us. We are value. We don't have to bring value. And so that shifted me into a speed of, I'm moving along at a clip, but not at a clip that is not sustainable.
Well, while you're taking copious notes
I am. I'm still trying to get catabolic and anabolic
also,
down. No, I'm just kidding.
Make sure you mark down plus 10 bonus points that I just used the word copious.
Stop it.
Crushing it today. I want to go back a little bit because it really stuck out to me what you said about because you were pointing towards maybe specifically as a female, and I would probably say, and I think you would agree too, like might be even specific to people who work in a faith-based situation or their business is focused on their faith or something where it's hard to honor yourself. You talked about honoring the people around you, whether it's honoring your leadership, honoring your clients, honoring your company, honoring God, but often honoring yourself comes last. That really, that struck a chord with me. I think that's just so prevalent, especially if you work at a nonprofit or you work in a business that is outwardly focused on your faith, and I think maybe even more so as a mom or a wife or things like that, where it's like you come last on that because the important thing, what we have all probably at some point told ourselves or believed, is that like everyone else is honored. So, man, can you speak more to that from like a faith perspective or from a female perspective, whatever makes most sense?
Yes. So a really helpful coaching exercise I went through, a couple years ago, that has stuck with me that I continue to do is every now and again, I just speak to my younger self. And so stick with me. This might sound crazy, but stick with me. So I have a picture of little Dana, and she was, like maybe 2 feet tall. I don't know. I was just a tiny little thing, and I just talked a lot. And I have one of my first memories is actually going to the elementary school. I have an older sister, and it's just the two of us, and I so badly wanted to be in school like my sister and do all the cool things Lori did and does. And I remember my mom taking me to do an assessment because my birthday was falling kind of just at the wrong cutoff to start school, but I was home with her all the time. Goodness knows I was talking her ear off. She's probably like,
yeah, you should go to school.
Yeah, she's like, let's assess Dana, get her into school. And they were like, yes, I guess I did everything fine on the assessment, but they were just like, she doesn't yet have kind of the maturity to be able to sit still in a chair and, God bless my teacher. So I didn't start school that year. They waited until when I was almost 6. And so I have a picture of myself around that age. And I think even then, it was easy for me to think about just like going, like I said, 0 to 60 really quickly. I was so energized, loved learning. And there have been seasons in my life where people who mean well have made that almost shameful about me. And I don't think God made a mistake in that. So looking back, I just have such compassion for the picture of little Dana at that age, just like I would for my own kids. And so when I look at my kids, I think the thing that serves them best is for them to be celebrated, one, the way God made them, but for them to see me celebrate the way God made me. And the way I can celebrate the way God made me is to honor the rhythms that I function best at. This doesn't mean that I have dominated over the years, like our family is going to bed at 9 and getting up at 5, which would be my preference, but trust me, that's not what my whole household necessarily
fantastic.
does. But that is to say like, hey, I love you all. I want you to do what you need to do. I'm going to do this for myself. doing that happened first at home before I took it to the workplace, honestly, Erin, because I had concerns in various workplaces about how that would come across. And then I hit an age where I went, there's not enough time for me to worry about how this comes across. I just got to do my thing, right? And I still talk myself through that on occasion. I really do. Like it's situational, and I want to put that out there because it's not like, oh, I've figured it out everywhere. There are still seasons and environments that it's harder for me to do that for myself in. But like walking you through the ability to realize, okay, I do think I'm honoring God. I do think I'm honoring my employer or my clients or my family, but how do I honor myself? It started with writing out what I wanted to practice. I wanted to practice honoring myself. It's not something we necessarily get right? I mean, it's like between now and when I'm in the ground, I'll get better at it. But like, it doesn't feel like pressure to me. It's just like, oh, if there's no pressure, my intuition is able to better understand, ooh, that didn't serve me well today, or gosh, that felt great. I'm going to do more of that. And then I just talk about it. You know, I had a call with a client a little bit ago and was just like, I had the most amazing discovery today. Can I just share it with you? Because it feels so life-giving. And she was like, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to try that myself. And I think it's just the awareness of the practice and not the expertise is what has made it so helpful, because it's not like I figure it out and then I'm done. I'm going to keep improving with age, and therefore the way I need to function and honor myself is going to shift too.
Yeah. But I love that you are willing to kind of throw some stuff at the wall, see what makes most sense, and then reevaluate, like you said, in a different season, in a different circumstance, things like that. Man, I just think that's really good stuff. And even just getting to the place of like, I can't care about what other people think about this, because if you're, I mean, this is what I am hearing you saying, like in the long run, if you're not honoring yourself, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not actually beneficial to that employer or client or whomever anyway. And so it's taking care of yourself first, which feels very counterculture to just said. Is that the Holy Spirit? What's happening?
Tossing expo markers off of the counter over there.
Am I supposed to stop what I'm saying or keep digging into what I'm saying?
Keep going.
But yeah, it's just, it's so counterculture to the word that I know is part of your mission statement, to the hustle culture of like, it's so counter to that, to take a step back and say, here's what I need in order to be a better employee to you, or a better coach to you, or a better friend to you, or whatever. Here's what I need too. And I just think that there's so much pushback against that in society. And so it's tough, but I love that you are like, just throwing your hands up, like, who cares? I have to do this for me. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I think something that came up last year, I haven't like really shared this much at all. So let's do it here, right?
Yeah, come on.
I keep thinking about this. This keeps coming up like when I journal or when I pray. And it's the idea of be willing to be inconvenient. Like when I think about that,
I'm going to have to push my chair away from
I was going to say,
feel very uncomfortable.
I'm getting really excited right now. How are you feeling over there?
This is like an ongoing, you're speaking to a really specific scenario, Dana.
Then talk me through this, Erin. Here's what I think.
Can't.
Okay, so here's my thoughts. I think what any of us might think is inconvenient could be vastly different. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And the reason I'm like working on this theory right now is I've had people come to me. I had someone come to me in particular, someone that we'd hired to help out with some work at the house. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I know this is so wrong and this is so bad and I have to change this or that. And I was just like, no, dude, not a big deal. Thanks for the communication.
Like, I literally do not.
And he really thought it was an inconvenience to me. And I'm like, he doesn't understand. My perspective is you do great work. We love having you around. Thank you for your help. I'm happy to bend and adjust to whatever you need. Yeah. So I just told him that. I said, I feel like you think you're being inconvenient. I love having you around. Like, I want to release you from that, because I want to release myself from feeling inconvenient. So let's say you and I work together and I'm like, gosh, Erin, I had this thing come up. I can't do X, Y, Z. And I'm really hesitant to tell you that because I don't want to be inconvenient. Yeah. And you're just here like, how would you feel if I hadn't told you and I had done the thing and it had put, unnecessary stress on my family or my health or something? You would have not liked that. And so I think my definition of inconvenient is different from other people's, but even if they don't see it as inconvenient, I have to be willing to do what I think personally is inconvenient. That way, one, I'm able to sustain a lifestyle that's not burning out, but two, we can give each other permission to say, I know this might be inconvenient, but here's what I need.
Yeah.
And then people get to fill in the gaps that way. And we don't always have to be the ones to provide. Again, it goes back to value. We don't always have to add value. We can be inconvenient. That's who I am to God. I am like a burr on God's butt a lot of days, let's be honest. So I'm inconvenient all the time to him, and he loves me. Why can we not do that in the workplace? I think we totally can. We do it in families a lot. But if we just say this is what we're doing, it kind of gives us the permission to enter into the relationship where there's really more intimacy there, to be like, I know this isn't maybe best, but this is what I need. Yeah. And then it's like, this is what I need, period, silence. And then you just don't go back on it.
Dana, just a moment of silence is like, I must fill this with talking. That's where I'm at. So that, even just thinking about
you did. Literally, she said period silence.
I know. I was like, I can't. That's so good. It reminds me of something I heard a long time ago. This is kind of a more watered down version of what you're saying, but of working to replace I'm sorry. Because when you're telling that story, you know, the guy led with like, I'm so sorry.
I apologize. Yeah.
Like replacing I'm sorry with thank you. And just recognizing, like you said, like, thank you for being willing to do this thing if this is inconvenient for you, or thank you for your understanding in this or whatever, instead of leading with just like, I'm so sorry, which implies that like, this is a huge burden for you. This is inconvenient. I'm attempting not to make eye contact over here right now, because later this is going to come back and bite me.
You see that?
I'm going to lead with I'm sorry, and he's going to be like, or thank you, and it's going to be a whole thing. So I regret being part of this conversation, but I really love what you're saying.
She requested to be here for the conversation. I want you to know that. So she does.
This conversation, you know,
I love it.
Understood.
I'm going to stop talking because I'm just digging myself what will later be a bigger hole to dig out of. Darn it.
Hustle. There's been a conversation on hustle. She tethered it out. It's kind of, you've got it on the website. It's in your tagline, because it's without hustle. Yeah. Right. It's a lot of elements.
I want a shirt that says that.
I'm sure.
No hustle here.
No hustle. Yes.
So, but hustle culture, it, you know, we invest in Oklahoma City small business leaders. Like, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a small business leader, like, hustle culture is it. Right. Unpack without hustle, because your clients, and you describe type A Christian career women. Yeah. Like, that's the people that you serve and you are passionate about. It aligns with everything the world is saying is hustle matters. Why does without hustle matter to you?
Hustle's what led me to become a serial burner-outer, as I said. I mean, hustle got me a lot of good places for a short amount of time.
Let's start with what is hustle.
So good, there.
Okay, say it again.
Hustle got me a lot of good places for a short amount of time, and that was it. Hustle would be me doing all the things. Yes, I'm gonna get up and crushing it. I'm gonna eat,
crushing it, all the things.
Maybe for a season.
That's what I'm saying.
But like,
you can totally do it.
I'm going to work out. I have the meal plan. I'm going to be the first one at the office. I'm going to go to my kids' thing at school. We have date night. I do something, you know, with my husband's job, like visiting his friends, traveling, taking care of parents, in-laws, just my dog, my cat.
I needlepoint this pillow in my free time.
Right? And it wasn't even like, it was interesting because hustle to me, and I mean this super respectfully, but my definition of hustle was it was always around me. There was always ego in it. Like, what am I achieving or accomplishing? And whenever you burn out, you don't care about that anymore. You're like, man, why was that so important to me? I just wish I had my health. I wish I could lay my pillow on my head at night and my heart rate not be able to not calm down. You know, like, why did I even care about that? And so hustle is effective temporarily. I'm not here to speak against it. I am here to say it's not going to get you where you want to go. I don't know really anyone who has said, man, I'm so glad I hustled and missed. You fill in the blank. Like, I'm so glad I hustled and missed whatever. There might be a season for it, and I have worked with a couple of clients where we were very intentional about, we're going to make this as a season, and this is going to be very intentional accountability, and I will be your biggest enemy if we go beyond this part of the season. Like, that's what I'm bringing to this relationship, because we have to learn how to do it. It wasn't just like I flipped a switch. It was like, ooh, again, it goes back to the awareness. Like, ooh, that didn't quite feel right today. For me, a big thing I learned in the last few years, I don't know when I started this, but I would lay in bed at night, and it used to be I would just have anxiety about, you name it. And if something was solved from the night before I had anxiety about, something had taken its place, right? It was just something new and different. And now I'll lay in bed at night and I will just try to do a quick replay of the day. Okay, made some mistakes there. Maybe that wasn't the best choice, whatever. But not like a sense of condemnation, but like a sense of, man, I love that I said no to this, or I love that I spent extra time with this person, or I love what my son texted me, or, you know, what my daughter said to me. She's hilarious. Just like these things. And those thoughts about a life where I'm not hustling are what make me hesitant to hustle. I have opportunities every day. We will. That will never end.
Yeah.
I see, just this morning, someone texted me a business idea, and I was like, I'll be doggone if that isn't the enemy or if I'm going to do this. I mean, they're both of them. I'm like, gosh, that sounds so fun. And, you know, so the capacity is always going to be there. And I think the energy is generally from a good place. Like it's the way that God wires us to want to hustle. Yeah. But it gets me places I cannot maintain.
That takes a lot of humility to say, so I really appreciate you saying that. It's good.
What are the differences? I know your coaching is with women specifically, but how do you see Christian culture? Because I mean, we're talking in Oklahoma City, this area where a majority of people are, right, claim to be Christians.
Yeah.
How do you see hustle culture playing out differently for women and men? And what are the pressures maybe additionally that you see on women, or how do you see that play out?
That's a great question. I want to give a little side caveat here because I think it's funny, but it's true. And that is that the last thing I wanted to do was to coach women. And I'm just going to be
I love how you like laughed your way into the answer.
I'm going to be very clear about that because even when I told my husband, I'm like, I really feel like God is leading me to this. He was just like, oh, no, you are not going to do this. I love women. I love being a woman.
I'm not offended. It's fine.
I love being a woman. But I didn't want to really dive daily into the things that I would often feel either judged by others or judging myself about because I happen to be female. So I've had more male clients than female clients, to be completely transparent with you. But I made that very public, clear shift to coaching, you know, type A, unapologetically ambitious Christian women, because that's who I am, and I coach what I know, but also because I think we have a tendency to be so independent and so capable that we can go pretty far without help. The thing is, our dreams are way beyond what we can do on our own. So with the coaching that if you don't want to hire a coach that doesn't have a coach, that's just like you don't want to have a counselor that doesn't have a therapist, right?
Amen.
So like my coach and I talk about how, like, for me, the tendency I've had in the workplace, I went through every job I've had, and I grew up working in a family business, so we're going way back. I went through every job I've had. My dad was probably my favorite employer, to tell you the truth. But I went through all the jobs and processed, okay, when I was there, what worked, what didn't work, and if for some magical random happenstance, I should be back in that job again, how would I work differently? How would I lead differently there? What would I bring that I failed to bring? Or what would I, expand that I was working on that I felt I could have done more with? I went through that last year for every job, and that's
an exercise.
It was quite an exercise, and I was like, boy, this is very cathartic. And it helped me realize that many of the things that I might have said a year ago were due to my gender in the workplace. Many of them were actually assumptions I had made about my gender and how to function in the workplace. So being a woman in the workplace, yes, I've been in places where my leadership wasn't as welcome as others, but I leave those tables pretty quickly. I'm just like, yeah, I don't think you want what I'm offering. No hard feelings. I'm going to a place where I can lead. So most of the places, it has been me limiting myself. So a number of coaching sessions, conversations, courses I'm creating are around getting out of our head and being able to lean into the strengths that we have, get past those thoughts that are keeping us from stepping fully in. I know for a fact, because I've had follow-up conversations, there were men I've worked with in the past who were like, man, Dana, you were just so close to stepping up to doing what we know you're capable of doing. And they were never putting me down, but it was just this awareness of like, I was stopping myself. So I love having conversations with women and being like, okay, what does it look like for you to fully own how God gifted you without a concern for the fact that you might be in an environment where men are promoted more quickly? I have seen that happen in places I've worked before. You might be in an environment where there aren't a lot of women around you, but how do we help you manage those circumstances? Those are facts. What we can authentically work with are your beliefs around that, your beliefs around you, who God says you are, what does God's word say about this, and then how do we attach the behaviors and the habits to those new thoughts that we're developing together so that those circumstances don't impact you the way they would otherwise.
Talk for just a moment. So like, let's think about a listener who, again, a woman in a potential place of leadership, but is in the same spot you were, who might be limiting herself with her thoughts. What's the thought loop? What's the thing to where it's maybe a more of an internal lens? And I'm actually hesitant to ask about that because my role, I can't get in to the experience, of course, a female in that spot. Sure. And so then I want to follow it up with how can male leadership be intentional to ensure that they're helping to close that awareness gap or create the awareness opportunities for our female leaders who are at the table there. But you know what I mean? So that if they are on their own in any way, shape, or form, unlocking them to be able to see the same potential that like a male leader might see.
Right. I love that question. Thank you for asking that question. I think the heart of the matter is really, what are you so afraid of? And I don't mean that from like a confrontational. I mean that like, what are you so afraid of? You know, I remember when my son was little, he was just terrified of the dark for a while. And I remember just sitting with him, but it was kind of like, I'm going to sit with you for so long, but I legitimately need to go sleep.
I'm ready to go to bed.
So I'm like, I just remember meeting his big brown eyes one night and being like, what are you so afraid of? What's the worst that could happen here? And when he told me, it was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm just going to, we'll just make you a pallet on the floor. Like, we can do that. There's nothing under your bed. We'll make you a pallet on the floor. You can sleep with the light on. This is not a concern to me, right? I am not trying to be mom of the year. I'm trying to get you sleep and me sleep and help you, live through this fear, right? Walk it out in faith. So being able to not only ask people, but to be asked, what am I really afraid of? I ask myself this a lot in my business, Clay. What am I really afraid of? I'm afraid of looking like a fool. I am afraid of not making enough money to cover my expenses. I am afraid of, let's see, there's got to be another one in there. I am afraid of, what would be the word I could think of? Just being being misunderstood as, oh, she's just self-promoting all day long. She's just got this platform. She's trying to get rich quick in this business. And those fears are legitimate. I validate those. But I also have to allow them. I'm willing to be misunderstood. I'm willing to, lose my hat in my business. I'm willing to look like a fool because I've done it before and I'm not done doing it. So, but the ability to just say those things out loud, it's so freeing. I don't mind saying that. What are we so afraid of? And whenever we realize that, it's like, okay, if that's the worst that could happen, let's you and me work on a plan. How would we navigate that if it did happen? How would we navigate it? And by the way, I'm going to just check in every so often and say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, with this fear, how are you feeling today? I do love a good scale.
I do love a good scale.
My kids were raised on scales. My daughter's like, don't coach me, Mom. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I just love a scale.
But just really quick, tell me, 1 to 10.
But are you like a 7?
How angry are you about this?
Yeah. How big is the boo-boo? but the ability to even just check in on those things is so powerful because that's when you realize, what I just said to you, the fear of coming across as self-promoting all the time in my business a year ago, it was probably an 8 or a 9. Today, it's probably a 4 or 5. I don't think I know of anything targeted I've done to tackle that fear except walk it out. Yeah, just the awareness, walking it out and checking in. And it's and then whenever you do that, it leads you to worship. It's oh my gosh, God, you just did something in my life in the last year. Thank you for that. Yeah. And that takes me all the way back full circle to what I was saying earlier. And that is that I get to see growth and change in my life without hustling for it. Just due to awareness. And that is such a gift that I think God intends all of us to have. But when we're hustling, we don't have the awareness for those things. And like I said, I'm not coming at this from an expert. Just right after Christmas, I happened to have a day alone at home. because my husband and my kids were driving to Phoenix, and I was going to fly and meet them there the next day. And it was a Sunday, and I'd gone to church, and I had the rest of the day alone. And I started feeling emotions, and I started thinking thoughts, and I started having all these ideas, and I went, oh my gosh, of course. I know this, but I'm actually living it out right now. Whenever we have space in our lives, God is there to speak to us. And even though I wouldn't say I was hustling, I had just finished Christmas, right? So it's
So
like
you were
tree put down. You know, I was doing things methodically, but it was just took more energy than usual. And God was just there, ready to be that energizing force of like, hey, here's some things. We need to work out these things. Let's talk about these things. You've got some emotions about these things. Let's figure them out. And it was so sweet. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm probably midway point through my life. Women in my family live a long time. So I'm thinking, okay, if I'm midway through my life, I want to be able to not hustle and to gain awareness until I'm dead, like to just gain awareness. Because I think God is here for that if I'll let him do it. So just slowing down and assessing things is changing my life so much.
23 years of leadership. I think that's what you have written down on the website that I pulled off. One of Aaron's favorite phrases. I can't say it's your favorite, but you use it a lot. Same, but different. You like that phrase?
I like that phrase.
You like the phrase same, but different?
Thanks, Cambodia. I stole it
wow.
from them.
Okay. There you go. Your leadership experience, Dana, is the type of organizations you've worked in, from businesses to nonprofits to church, right? Sizes, scale, you've got a variety, which I think equips you as a coach.
Yeah.
What's maybe something you've learned from a large institution that you've taken away, and something that you've learned from small institution that you've taken away that you maybe couldn't have gleaned from the opposite one, that you apply in coaching today, or that you are applying in your own life today?
So in the larger organizations I've worked in, I would say it really came down to recognizing that what can happen in a large organization is we think we have all the answers in-house. I, years ago, wanted to hire a coach. I had no money for a coach. I saved money for almost over a year. I sold stuff. I asked for money for my birthday. I mean, anything I could do to be part of this little coaching mastermind for women in ministry. And I cringe at it now, but it's funny. But I remember I decided to join it. But before I applied, I went to my leader and just said, hey, I want to do this like coaching thing. Is that okay? And his response to me, he wouldn't say this now. He's changed. But back then his response to me was like, everything you need is right here. I don't know why you would do that. Like, why would you waste your money on that? And thankfully there was a little bit of something in me that was like, I respectfully disagree. I have permission. I'm still going to do it. And it was an incredible experience. But I realized that sometimes we get so large, and I think it has to do with organizations, but also with success. Sometimes we become so successful, we think everything I need, I can just pull from the pot.
That's good.
I completely reject that. I'm a very visual person. I love, hobby of mine is I have a finance degree. I love thinking about investments and businesses and things like that. And I always use with my husband the idea of like stagnant or standing water. I hate the idea of standing water. Standing water is flat and it can attract bacteria. If you're ever like out hiking and you see standing water and it's been there long enough, it's like green and there's like bugs on it. It's just not good. You want water that is in motion. It doesn't have to be moving with rapids, but it just needs to be moving. You just need it to be in motion. And I think in organizations, and if we're extremely successful, we don't experience that if we think everything's in-house. So it's actually super healthy when you see people come and go. That's not a negative thing in an organization. They have brought something special, they've invested in it, and they're taking what they took there and sending it somewhere else. That's not stagnant. I just love that mentality. In a small business, which mine is, I'm a one-woman business.
Come on now.
Although I do employ my husband for free.
He's aware of this yet, right?
He's aware.
Okay, that's what I say.
He helps me out.
I employ him for free. I love it.
I think in a small business, it's easy to think that we're not making an impact. And I love metrics. I love data. And I sat down, before I launched my podcast, I sat down and went, okay, what are some of the metrics I want to look at? What should I look at? And then before I even dove into it, it was like God was saying, oh, Dana, you're going to go down this spiral that you tend to go on. And I do have metrics to look at, but I thought, you know what I really want to hear? I really want to hear stories. And like when my kids will come back and be like, do you remember something when we were little or whatever? Those are the paycheck of parenting. When they say, I remember you taught me something and I went out and tried that. It's like, that's the paycheck. There is a paycheck.
I was going to
me,
say,
okay?
I've not gotten there yet.
I was waiting to catch that one. Me too.
Right now, it's
if you
like,
could.
if my kid asks me a question, I answer. He's like, probably not. Okay. That's fine.
I've had that happen.
It's coming back around.
It's coming.
The check's in the mail. The check is in the mail.
My email for a long time.
Kids, like ministering back to you, it's lovely. But I think in my business, the paycheck is, hey, God gave me that word when I needed it. And it's the part of being a conduit, of being the little thing that keeps moving water in their body of water, in their life. Like being that, I want to generate a little bit of that energy in their life of challenge, encouragement, stories, things that allow them to just go, oh gosh, I just really needed that, because I think that is the currency that has most impacted my life, other people sharing, and that's the currency I want to put back out there. So that as a small organization, I do what I can, and that's enough.
That's good.
Would you, to close us here, and I've got like your little bullet canned phrases. I don't know if those are all on purpose or if that's just natural to you, but it's incredible. Like
she's got them written.
I know, but like
yeah.
the be willing to be inconvenient,
yeah.
the we don't bring value, we are value, like just all these, I'm bundling them. You'll get all the credit, but I'm going to use them if you don't mind.
Well, I don't know. They just come from experience.
That's
I can't
great.
say.
Would you maybe just talk to, potential clients, like describe, if you would, for someone, what your service looks like, how people could find you, how to get set up, what that, if someone hears this and is like, yeah, okay, I would love to find out more and understand, describe for them what that could look like and how to find you, if you don't mind.
Sure. So you can find me at danabyerscoaching.com. And I like to switch up based upon the time of the year, what I'm offering. So it might be one-on-one sessions, it might be courses. Sometimes I have live local events in Oklahoma City. Sometimes I do online events. I completely have adult ADHD, so I just do whatever I want in my business. So that's why I do that.
You get to do.
So that's why I get to do that. But also it really gives me the flexibility to be like, gosh, I've talked to a number of people and they're dealing with this one issue. Let's pull women around it. Let's get together around this now. So like if I have kind of, my finger on the pulse of something, or just something God's showing me, wanting to share that. So that is probably the best place. My email list is where I really try to just, I'm sharing content every day on my email list just to be like, hey, here's what's going on, or here's something I'm offering or not offering right now. But they can always reply there. My inbox is so fun because that's where I hear people's stories, and they're letting me know what's going on in their lives. So they can reach me that way. But anything that I'm typically hearing when I work with clients, I hear two things. One, I'm a man. Can I still hire you? Yes. Two, these are women who are so capable that the point that they get at to talk to me, they really feel they have tried everything. And the thing is, it's like, you have done everything. I mean, these are my conversations. Yes, you have done everything you imaginably can. How are you even sitting up and talking right now? Like, once she's given me the litany of all the things that she's done to make it work, right? And then the conversation turns to, let's make sure this doesn't work anymore. Like, we want to break the system that you have. And I'll walk through that with you, because a broken system is not a bad thing. A broken person is a bad thing.
Write that one down.
And so
Seriously.
So getting to just talk with her through like, hey, I want to bring that, been there, learned that mentality, but also no, this is not a place of judgment. And I also don't have the answers. And that's the thing about coaching that I love, is I get to ask the questions and her answer is the one that's best for her.
Come on.
And so that means that, if I coach 10 women today and ask them the same question, there might be 8 or 10 different answers. And I love that because I think it shows how unique God has made each of us.
Yeah.
And the need for honing so much of my communication and my business towards women is because I personally had a hesitancy for a long time. I had people always supporting me. Even my dad, like, saw me as a leader from a very young age, and he's a great leader himself. And so I didn't struggle with that so much as thinking I had hit my own ceiling. Like, this is as far as I can go. And that's what happens. I work with a lot of intelligent women who are like, I just don't think there's anything more in me to give. Well, you're right, there's not. But we can work on your thinking and your belief system to authentically give you the freedom and the capacity to tackle your life in a way that actually energizes you, where you can sit with your spouse or your kids and literally feel yourself filling up instead of feeling the life drain out of you. This is not God. Not only is this not God's plan for you, but this is not God's best for you. And so just trying with loving authority to say that to someone is really important. And so usually when we have a conversation, she's waited way too long. I speak from experience in doing that, which is why I'm trying to get out there in a variety of ways. To be like, hey, you're not alone in this. And sorry, sucker, but all of us are dealing with this. So let's just talk about it. Like, I'm just, I'm feeling vulnerable about my business. You're feeling vulnerable maybe about your job or your parenting or your marriage or whatever. How do we talk about this in a way that gives you the confidence to continue on the path that God's called you in, but to do it without that nagging fear that it's all about to fall apart? Because God doesn't want us operating in that way. Like, he's not sitting here thinking, man, I really hope Clay and Aaron thinks this is all about to fall apart right now. There's no part of him. There's no, that is not the gospel at all. For him to want us to think it's about to fall apart. And so for us to carry that anxiety is not our job. It is not our job at all. So to release that anxiety, completely acknowledging all of our shortcomings, gives us the freedom to lead. And it gives us the freedom to make the mistakes so that other people can follow us in their mistakes and still see God bring a much better outcome than if we had hustled our way through it.
That.
Did you write down that last
no,
one about
I didn't.
broken people?
Oh, yeah, I got that.
Okay.
I thought you said that I write all that down. I was like, no, that was too good. Yeah, a broken system isn't a bad thing. A broken person is. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Aaron, any final thoughts or questions that you have?
I'm just going to repeat that. I can't because I can't remember it. But I'm going to say that that's really good because it does feel so often like I've worked so hard to, arrange this or get this going or whatever. And there's that fear, like that gripping tighter on something because to some extent, I think it could be kind of like, the devil, it's like, this may not be going awesome, but I'm familiar with it. And I worked really hard to make it work,
That's good.
And so it's like you're just gripping so tight to it because you don't know what's on the other side, and we can perceive that could be worse, or at least it's unknown, and at least you're familiar with this hot message you have going on here. Right. And so I really appreciated that of like, it's okay to have a broken system and it's okay to break that and see what happens, because if we believe that God is who he says he is, then he restores and he renews even our broken systems, because a broken person is on the other end of us gripping tightly to our little hot mess system that we've created, where we're like, "Ooh, stay together. You're really messy, but just keep it here." Yeah, that's really good.
Dana, thank you. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you specifically the personal elements of your own journey that God has used to inspire and equip you to then go into now sharing this with so many others and to build your coaching business and to share with others. Thank you for sharing it with us today.
Yeah. It's a pleasure to be here, guys.
Absolutely.
And we'll put a link in the show notes, but Dana's podcast has officially launched.
It is.
And we'll put a link in the show notes.
Been there, learn that.
Yeah,
that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. Go give it a listen, find it, follow, rate and review everything, right? Yeah, please do.
I'll take it all.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here today. To our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us. And until next week, choose life. Thanks for tuning in. To find out more about how Restoration Group can serve your business, go to restorationgroup.co or click the link in the show notes below.